This is one of the most mysterious places in the world, and if it wasn't for modern technology, we may have never discovered what's inside. But this discovery shocked the world. So keep watching to find out more. For thousands of years, there was an advanced civilization in South America. They built amazing structures without any modern tools. They developed a complex society with its own unique culture and customs. But then suddenly, mysteriously, they vanished. This is the Inca. In the 15th century, they were the largest empire in all of South America. At their peak, they controlled an area larger than modern-day France, but despite their advanced society, within only 100 years, the Inca were completely wiped out. So who were they? The Inca originated in the region that is now southern Peru. During their early years, they lived in small villages, just like many other civilizations. They farmed crops, raised animals, and traded with neighboring settlements. But around the year 1438, everything changed. A young Inca emperor named Pochacati began a series of military campaigns that greatly expanded his empire. The Inca army was highly effective thanks to their unique style of warfare. Instead of going into battle head-on, they would terrorize the opposing army by throwing rocks and javelins from high up on the mountains. Then, once their opponents were exhausted, they would attack. Thanks to this strategy, the Inca were able to conquer multiple tribes and form a large empire. Soon, the Inca weren't just ruling over the land, but also controlling the seas. Their navy patrolled the coastline, capturing ships from neighboring countries and even venturing as far as the Galapagos Islands. But as the empire grew, so did the wealth of the Inca nobles. They began hoarding gold and silver, as well as fine textiles and jewelry. Eventually, the gap between the rich and poor became too great, and civil wars broke out. This period of chaos lasted for nearly 100 years, and during this time, the Inca lost control of much of their territory. However, in 1471, the civil war ended when an Inca king named Huayna Capac conquered his rivals and reunited the empire. He is considered the greatest monarch in Inca history, and he ruled for 54 years until his death in 1527. Under his leadership, the empire reached its peak. It stretched along the Pacific coast of South America, from Ecuador to Chile. In fact, some historians believe the Inca could have continued expanding their empire and eventually conquered the Aztec if the Spanish hadn't arrived. But unfortunately, the Inca wouldn't be around for much longer. After Huayna Capac died, his two sons fought over who should take the throne. Eventually, the throne went to Atahualpa, but after he took power, he had his brother executed. This caused a massive divide between the northern and southern regions of the empire. Soon, the two sides went to war. But before the fighting began, the Spanish arrived in the region. When the Spanish first made contact with the Inca, they were impressed by their advanced society. The Inca cities were full of impressive buildings, bridges, and aqueducts. And their roads were some of the best in the world. They even had a system of suspension bridges that allowed them to cross deep canyons. But despite the Incas' technological advancements, the Spanish were able to defeat them with ease. There are several reasons for this. First, the Spanish had better weapons. Not only did they have steel swords and armor, but they also had guns and cannons. Second, the Spanish had horses, which gave them a major advantage in battle. And third, the Inca had never experienced European diseases before, so they were defenseless against them. Smallpox, measles, and influenza swept through the Inca population, killing millions. In fact, it's believed that 90% of the Inca died from European illnesses. By 1600, there were less than 100,000 Inca left alive. Today, there are about 2 million people who speak the Inca language, but most of them live far away from the Inca heartland. So how did the Spanish wipe out such an advanced civilization? Francisco Pizarro was the Spanish conquistador who conquered the Inca. On November 15, 1532, he and his men entered the Inca capital city of Cajamarca. Pizarro invited the Inca Emperor Atahualpa to meet with him in a courtyard. The two leaders met, and at first everything seemed to be going well. However, the next day Pizarro and his men returned to the courtyard and arrested Atahualpa. Then they demanded that the Inca give them a room full of gold, or else they would execute their emperor. The Inca had no choice but to agree, and within 3 days they had gathered a massive amount of gold and silver for the Spanish. However, Pizarro still wasn't satisfied. He executed Atahualpa anyway. Then he ordered his men to kill every Inca in the courtyard. This marked the beginning of the end for the Inca's civilization. Over the next few years, Pizarro and his men seized control of the Inca capital and executed many of the Inca nobles. Then they began searching for the legendary city of gold, El Dorado. But instead of finding gold, they found something even more valuable. Silver. In the 16th century, silver was worth twice as much as gold, and the Spanish were able to extract huge amounts of it from the mines in the Andes Mountains. The Spanish also exploited the Inca for labor. They forced them to work in the mines and on plantations growing crops such as wheat, barley, and vineyards. The Spanish rule was brutal, and many Inca died under their control. But despite the hardships they faced, the Inca were able to preserve their culture and traditions. They continued to speak their language Quechua, and they kept their religious beliefs alive. However, as time passed, the Inca became more and more assimilated into Spanish culture. Many of them converted to Christianity and began speaking Spanish. Today, the Inca are a minority in their homeland, but they continue to play an important role in Peruvian society. But why did the Inca build these amazing structures? Well, that has to do with their religion. The Inca believed that the world was divided into 3 levels: the underworld, the human world, and the world of the gods. To reach the world of the gods, they needed to build tall structures that pierced the clouds. That's why the Inca built pyramids and temples on top of mountains. The Inca also built roads and bridges to connect the different levels of the world. They believed that the roads could be used by the gods to travel between different parts of the empire. In fact, some Inca roads were so well built that they're still used today. In addition to their religious beliefs, the Inca built their structures for practical reasons as well. They lived in a mountainous region with a very wet climate, so they needed to build sturdy structures that could withstand heavy rains and earthquakes. The Inca also built terraces on the mountainsides to grow crops. This allowed them to grow food in a region that is not suitable for agriculture. And while the Inca were known for their stone structures, they also excelled in metalworking. They were able to produce high-quality metal tools and weapons using simple techniques. Inca metalworkers were highly skilled, and their craftsmanship was highly prized. In fact, some Inca artifacts are still considered to be some of the finest examples of metalwork ever produced. Another thing the Inca were known for was their textiles. They were able to produce incredibly colorful and intricate fabrics using natural dyes. Inca weavers were highly skilled and their work was highly valued throughout the empire. But how did the Inca manage to build these amazing structures without using mortar or machines? Well, it turns out that they used a technique called corbelling. Corbelling is a method of construction where successive horizontal layers of masonry are supported on the courses below them, creating a layered effect. The Inca were able to create massive stone blocks using this technique without using any mortar or machines. The Inca also used a type of stone called silla, which is a sedimentary rock that is easy to cut and shape. They were also able to use the natural landscape to their advantage. For example, they often built their structures on top of mountain ridges or natural rock formations. This allowed them to create structures that were in harmony with the natural environment. It's truly amazing to think about how advanced the Inca civilization was. Despite having limited technology, they were able to build impressive structures and create a thriving society. It's no wonder that they were able to survive for centuries in the harsh environment of the Andes Mountains. Unfortunately, the Inca were wiped out by the Spanish conquistadors, but their legacy lives on in the ruins of their temples and the traditions of their people. If you want to learn more about the Inca, stay tuned for more videos. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.